Back. This is East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a special guest today, Ethan Coffey. So I want you to talk just a little bit about what all Ethan has done, Matt.
Well, Ethan, I guess, is now a ultra marathoner who is still really fast and does a bunch of road stuff. I think lives in Knoxville. Works at Oak Ridge. Didn't know that.
And Ethan's also a 3-time Knoxville Marathon winner.
I did know that.
He's also going to tell us some good stories about some of the other races he's done, but he also has ran the Double Boston, which he raised money for. And then also one of the things Ethan did at the beginning of the year as well is the Frosty Foot race. You come out and just absolutely crushed that race, Ethan. So, you've obviously made a good background and history in marathoning, but, the last year or so, last year and a half, I guess you've moved over to ultra running, and you've also done some long relays that we would like to learn about as well. But Ethan, if we could start out with the Knoxville Marathon, what we'd really like to know there is like your training leading up to those races. You won 3 years in a row. So that's pretty impressive in itself. But did you change your training each time? Did you adjust what you were doing, trying to better prepare for those races?
So first of all, I didn't actually win 3 years in a row. I won 3 years, but I ran the first one was in 2014, I think, and then I didn't win again until 2019 or 2020, and that was good.
Wow. Okay.
I was focusing on running the fastest marathon I could because I was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. And Knoxville, while it's a great race, is not a super fast course.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was focusing on trying to run faster times. But as far as my marathon training went, it was, looking back on it, now that I'm 40 years old and seem like I'm dealing with injuries all the time, was pretty crazy. I would run about up to 120, 125 miles a week.
Wow.
I would not run less than 10 miles at a time. So I'd run nine runs a week. But say on my workout days, I would run 10 miles in the morning, easy. And then in the evening, I would do a workout. Say I would do a few mile warm up and then 8 times a mile or 2 times 5 miles or something like that. And then the next day I would come back and do a medium long run of like 16 or 17 miles. And then I would take a day easy and then come back and do the same thing I did on Tuesday. Another 26, 27 mile day.
Wow.
So it was a lot. I was really, really focused on winning Knoxville at the time. A local person from Knoxville hadn't won in several years since Stuart Ellington had done it, and I really wanted to make my mark. And so when I came out it must have been 2014 or 2015. That's right. I was in phenomenal shape, and I ran 2:22 with about a 3-minute negative split.
Wow.
And so I was about as fit as I've ever been when I did that. And then after 2020, I came back and ran it again because I was kind of done trying to run the really fast marathons, and but I was in marathon shape. I was relatively fit, and so my training for those was less intense because I was learning that I couldn't handle as much as I used to be able to. But I was also starting to move a little bit towards the ultra marathon stuff a little bit more. So I was always focused on strength, just trying to be as strong as I could because I've never been super, super fast.
Well, I would beg to differ.
That's pretty fast to me. I mean, I'm just trying to qualify for Boston.
So what was your fastest marathon time?
So I ran 2:19:34. I remember the seconds exactly because the Olympic trials qualifier is 2:19 flat. So I missed
wow.
by 34 seconds, which is
Where was that at?
it's out in Sacramento. It's called the California.
Yes.
It's a good place where a lot of guys go to run fast. It's a net downhill, but there's some rolling hills. It's not a ski slope. It's kind of similar downhill to Boston, just doesn't have the big hills in the way. And yeah, I was on. So to put it in perspective, a 2:19 marathon is 5:19 per mile, and I was 5:18, 5:16, 5:15 for about 21, 22 miles, and then the last few miles I was up to 5:25, 5:30, and that was enough to put me over the edge.
Mm. Yeah, so you got out of the.
What year was that?
That was 2018. Yeah, I was trying to 20 trials.
Okay.
That's impressive.
It is.
Man, what a letdown too. I would have been so upset. I can imagine how upset you were after that. I mean, that's a lot of hard work though.
It was not as much of a letdown because I was happy. I was proud of what I accomplished because when I first started marathoning back in 2007, when I ran my first marathon, the Olympic trial standard was 2:22. And I kind of ran a couple marathons and had some friends who were running fast. And I was like, you know what? I think I can run 2:22. And so I did end up running 2:22. Just the standard had changed by then. So
well, that's impressive.
I was still pretty proud of having run as fast as I did.
No, absolutely. 2:19. Did you ever try again, or was that your one time for?
Yeah, I kind of since it's hard because I was only 34 seconds off, and I still had a lot of time, and so I probably came back the next season a little bit too quickly and ended up falling in a cycle where you keep trying to push it and something keeps popping up on you, and so I never had a good shot at it again.
Well, that's impressive, Ethan.
Well, yeah, 2:22, 2:19. That's tough. That's a good run, definitely.
So now, was it in 20? I've done my research here, but I may be getting the dates mixed up, just like the 3-time Knoxville Marathon winner. But I thought it said 3 years in a row. But going back to, is it 2014 is when you set the 50K national title?
So that was actually when I was training for the Double Boston. So yeah, that would have been 2014. The 50K road national championship was up in New York in end of February, beginning of March, and it was I was basically running either a marathon or a 50K every month as a build up towards the Double Boston. And so I went up just kind of on a whim. I looked at the times and I was like, I think I can run a time that could put me in the top of that race. And so I went up and actually won the national championship and set a course record at the time, although it's been broken since then. But I ran 2:53 for 50K. And actually at the time,
I'm pretty sure that he beat Michael Wardian. Is that right?
Yeah.
So he was racing Michael Wardian. I was reading all this today, and Ethan broke the course record. And I think what's funny is, like, I don't think they even really knew who you were when you showed up, did they, Ethan? Like, Ethan showed up. They got a picture of him in, like, yellow gloves. And now there's this article written about him, like he showed up.
Well, I think I saw at one point when Ethan shared something about, I think you said you beat somebody out on one of the covers or one of the headlines or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was on the front page of the USA Track and Field webpage, and Galen Rupp had a little picture right next. I had the big picture, and Galen had
yeah, I remember you sharing that. I thought that was pretty funny.
For one day, I was a bigger story than Galen Rupp.
So, was that your first 50K?
No, actually, my first 50K was at the not the Frosty Foot 50K, but the Frosty 50K. They're different races. It's in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's around Salem Lake, and it's like a kind of like a dirt track around the lake. It's a double out and back, and it's super fast. And I was actually running it as a marathon build up because I was at the time my marathons weren't going very well. I was training really well, but not racing very well, and I wanted to get stronger mentally, and so I thought running a hard 50K would make me like better at the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out there and Bob Adams, who you might know down from Chattanooga, big ultra guy, he had run it the previous year and set the record. And so of course, that was in the back of my mind. I was like, I got to beat Bob, and so I was kind of chasing Bob's ghost, and I think I ran it maybe 1 or 2 minutes faster than he did. And so that was at the time I had never broken 240 in the marathon, and I came through the marathon at that 50K in like 235 or 236.
Oh wow!
So it was definitely a big step for me. So that's the Frosty 50K, and it's a lot less technical than the Frosty.
Is it still a trail?
It's trail, yeah. It's off road, but it's really like a dirt road. It's a
wow. So you got your PR in a marathon on a trail. That's even more impressive. Like at the time, you know, that's awesome.
Yep. Pretty good.
So you used that training then. So let's talk about that 50K real quick. Like, what was did you go there trying to break the course record, or were you just going there to see what you could do?
Yeah, both. Again, I Bob still lived here in Knoxville at the time, so I was running with him a lot, and so I knew what he had done the previous year. And in the back of my mind, I was like, if I'm feeling good, I think I can. I knew the paces, and I was out at 6-minute pace or whatever, and I got through half 25K and felt comfortable, and so I just kept it up. But yeah, the goal really was initially the A goal or the main goal was just to run a 50K strong, and the B goal, the secondary goal, was to try to see if I could break the course record.
Nice.
And you did.
So you go through your marathon block, and you do this 50K, and you've been doing a marathon a month to get ready for this double Boston. So tell us just a little bit about this double Boston, and from what I saw, you did this to raise money as well. So it was more than just wanting to do something. You were raising money. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Boston bombing happened in 2013, and so I'd gone to Boston every year for maybe 3 or 4 years in a row, and it's great. I love the race, but it was just it's a lot. It's a great experience if you can do it. I definitely highly recommend it. But the logistics, the money, everything else, and so I'd stopped going, and then I was at work at ORNL on Marathon Monday, and like the news of the bombing came through and just absolutely devastated me. Like I couldn't believe someone would attack that, like the pure joy of that race. And so at that moment I said I was going to go back, and I wanted to do something, but as you know, I'm fast for a look, regionally I'm good, but I'm not like, I'm not going to make headlines with how fast I am. So I knew I was strong. I'd been doing a lot of miles, and I knew I could run 52 miles. And I thought, well, I can actually get people to pay attention to what I'm doing and maybe do more for somebody by doing the double Boston. And so I was raising money for, it was the Be Strong, Stay Strong Fund, which was a couple of local people here who had been actually cheering their mom on, who was running the marathon, and they were involved in the bombings, and they were both injured, and so I was able to. This was before all the the online charity apps and stuff. So I had to kind of do it on my own. I had like an app where people would pledge money, and it was based on how fast I ran to give me more motivation. I remember the goal was 6 hours, so I wanted the 2 marathons back to back in under 6 hours, and so I started at 7 a.m. and the race I was in Corral A or Corral 1, Group A or whatever. So they were starting at 10 o'clock, and so I knew I had to get up from the finish to the start in less than 3 hours. So that gave me a little bit of motivation, and so I got up there in 2:48, and I had 12 minutes to get in my corral and get a little bit of food and a little bit of drinks, and then head back down the road. And then my second marathon was 3:11. So my total time, running time, was just under 6 hours. Although if you include the stoppage time, it was a little bit over 6 hours. But yeah, so I asked people to send the money directly to the charity based on how much they pledged, and according to the pledges, it was around $10,000. But I never saw the money, so I got where it was going.
So on the double, is that something you came up with, or is that something that they had?
So I had never heard of it before.
Okay.
There's people that do it every year. Actually, I was on my way up, and I passed Dean Carnazzi's, and he had started like 2 hours before me.
Oh, really?
He started at 5 a.m. and I started at 7, and I passed him at, I don't know, mile 23 or 24, because he was on his way up too. So there's a group that does it every time. I wish Java had been around at the time, because I probably have the segment record on the double Boston, but there's no way to prove that.
But Ethan said earlier he's not fast, right?
Well, he's not
Is that
fast.
what Ethan said?
What is it?
He passes a guy 2 hours after the race. That's awesome.
Pretty fast to me.
So how long did it take to recover from that? Because I mean, running 2 marathons back to back, that's not like going out and running your typical 50K. I mean,
And those were fast marathons. They weren't just like long training runs. Those were fast.
So funny story about that. I'm going to have to send this to my friend Andy Baxa, who's also a very good runner in his own right. We were racing Dogwood 5K down on Cherokee Boulevard Saturday after the double Boston. So I come back from Boston. I'm sore. I don't run at all. My quads are beat up, and I show up on Saturday morning, so 4 or 5 days after the double Boston, and I may have warmed up a few minutes, and I get my racing flats on, and I take off, and I just get out of the box fast, because I know if I'm going to beat Andy, I'm going to have to just run as hard as I can, and I ended up running 15:18 5K, like the double Boston, and
that was the weekend after.
yeah.
Jeez, just a few days. That thing's on a Monday.
How bad did that hurt afterwards? I would imagine, or during. Did you feel anything, like any pain wise?
It was painful, yeah, but I knew Andy was back there hunting me down, so
So
I just ran.
you win? Did you win that one?
I beat him, yeah.
What did he say after he saw you at the finish line?
Oh, I think I think he was not too happy about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. So,
No.
and also, if you started a marathon 2 hours before me and passed me, I would be happy about that. All right, so now let's shift gears a little bit, because we talked about your marathons. You've done a lot of smaller races too, 5Ks and stuff, and you've done really well at those. But last year you stepped into, and it sounds like you'd ran ultras before, but you really stepped into the ultra distance last year. You did No Business 100 and finished that race. Then you jump in first of the year, you do Frosty Foot 50K, and then you decide to do Badwater, which is, I think that was one of your bucket list races. So before I ask you a little bit about Badwater, I just want to ask you this: was Badwater the hardest race you've ever done?
It's hard to answer that question, because it's a different type of hard. It was the only race where I wasn't sure I was going to be able to finish. I've dropped out of races before because I didn't want to finish. but when I was heading into Panamint Springs, which is the mile 72 cutoff, I thought I wasn't going to make it in time. I was going to miss the cutoff, and there was nothing I could do about it. I was just so hot. I couldn't go. I couldn't do any more than I was doing. Now, physically, like, it was not the hardest thing I've ever done because it was just so slow, so much walking, so, like, but just it's a different type of difficult, I guess.
Yeah.
And you're right. It was a bucket list item for me. When I continued running after college, I had two things I wanted to do: qualify for the Olympic trials, which you talked about, which was 2:22 at the time, and run Badwater, because I'd watched that Running on the Sun documentary, which you can still find somewhere. We got it on Netflix back when you got the DVDs in the mail. And I was like, man, that seems, because I've always been really, really bad in the heat. I sweat way more than anyone. My sweat is saltier than anyone's. I get hot. I get overheated. I can't handle anything hot. And so I was like, that seems like the most difficult thing I could think of to do. And yeah, it was yeah, I guess the hardest thing I've done because I wasn't sure. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, hard can be, whether it's physical or mental. I was just like, overall, was it the hardest thing you've done? And it sounds like it because, when you're in a race that you really want so bad, like that's your goal, and you're right in front of the cutoff, that is the worst feeling ever. Like, you want it so bad and you've made it this far, and someone can just take it away from you that quick, and you've worked that hard for it. That's a terrible feeling, and that doesn't help your motivation either. A lot of people crumble under that pressure, but sounds like you were able to keep going, because you made it. Obviously, you finished the race, but how did you? So, if you don't care, real quick, tell us, like, in that moment, what did you do, and like how did you manage the heat, and how did you stay in front of that cutoff to finish the race? Like, what was your? I know you had a strategy, Ethan, because that engineering mind is not going to start a race without having everything laid out. So
Yeah, I had a strategy. It was a good strategy. But there's no way I ever could have gotten anywhere near finishing. I probably couldn't have done 20 miles without my crew. The crew was the best thing. They were there every step. Once you get past Stovepipe Wells at mile 42, you're allowed to have a pacer, and my pacers were there the entire time. They were spraying me with cold water, keeping ice on me. But even so, in the middle of the day, walking with ice on me and ice packs and being sprayed with cold water, I still got overheated. And coming down into the valley, where Panamint Valley, where the next cutoff is, I was getting sick. I was getting nauseous. I had to keep stopping, and I remember just sitting there, watching the time go by, and I was nauseous. I couldn't keep anything down, and they were trying to cool me off, and I was doing the math, and I was like, guys, I just need to go. I need to, whatever happens, I'm just going to walk, and hopefully we can start, getting fuel in me, and because otherwise there was no way I was going to make it. And I think I got in there maybe like 30 minutes below the cutoff, which, is enough.
Yeah.
You're out there and you're not able to run, and you're going slow. Those minutes go by fast.
were you DFL?
No,
No.
I was DFL at the mile 90 checkpoint, at the top of the second mountain. I was in last place, and then I passed a few people on the final climb up Mount Whitney, and a couple people behind me I think dropped out. So I think there was 87-ish, 87, 88 finishers out of 100, and I was like 82nd.
So, what's this Ethan Coffey heat rule that I've heard about? I've heard it mentioned that
The
at a
Coffey
couple
line.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
So my teammates in college came up with it because they knew they're smarter than me, and they saw this before I did. Was that if the temperature was over a certain amount, either I just wouldn't run well, and so the Coffey line is dependent on the distance and how fast I'm going. So, for instance, the Coffey line for a 5K might. I mean, I've done the Fireball 5K where it's 80, 90 degrees and done okay. For a marathon, if it's over 50 degrees, no chance. I'm not going to run well. I can finish probably, but it's not going to be good. So that was one of the things that I learned as I was in this process of when I talking about the Frosty 50K where I PR'd the marathon. It was like 27 degrees. I was just able to run as hard as I wanted, and I wasn't overheating. And I was like, "Wow, this is crazy! This is how some people might feel all the time." Um, and the same thing with the USA, the National 50K Championship. So I was up in New York in like first weekend in March. It was like 27, 28 degrees. I was out there in a singlet and gloves running,
Saw the picture.
and I was fine. I felt great.
Crazy. So you go from that to 100 and something degrees at Badwater.
So yeah, so obviously I knew there was no chance I was gonna run fast at Badwater. I could not enter it thinking it was a race. Like it was my finish, and once I'm definitely a super competitive person, but I have to realize my limitations. And so I had two major rules. The first was I was not allowed to run when the sun was out. As soon
Good
as the sun
rule.
came, running,
Yeah.
walking. The second one was when I was running at night, I couldn't run for more than 2 minutes at a time. So I would run for 2 minutes, and then because I've never gotten good at like running slowly, and so when I start running, a comfortable pace for me, where I don't feel like I'm breaking, is way too fast. And so when I was training for Badwater, I was actually doing practice runs where I would run for 2 minutes and walk for 8, 10, 12 minutes. Because the first cutoff at Stovepipe Wells is the hardest one, and you have to average like not hardest in terms of pace. You have to average right around 4 miles an hour, 15-minute miles.
Okay.
And so I knew if I got the pace down where I knew if I was running for 2 minutes and walking for 10, 12 minutes, I could easily be under 15-minute pace and I wouldn't overheat. And so that was the plan. It worked. It worked.
It worked.
Yeah, I was gonna say it got you through.
It
I
worked
remember what.
up.
I remember I was following along the whole time, and
What's that?
I was following you along during that race, and I remember like at one point, we kept checking on it, and then there was a point where you got and you just stopped. Like there was no more like nothing, and we were texting each other like, have you heard from Ethan, like, or saw anything? Or like, oh, we haven't saw nothing.
And someone sent because we had a group message, and someone said you dropped.
Yep.
And then we were like, oh no. And then all of a sudden, like a couple hours later, we finally see a post where I guess you were resting maybe in the van or something, or you'd taken a break.
Yeah. So
somehow it got communicated, Ethan, that you dropped out of the race to us. So
I think one of my splits didn't get recorded. I don't know, but I heard from other people that there was one split that didn't get recorded, and so people thought I stopped. I really only stopped probably. I took 2 like 20-minute naps, and then I stopped for 20 to 30 minutes a couple times when I got super overheated. But other than that, I was moving the whole time.
Oh yeah, because it was a big gap that it wasn't there, and we were like, oh, what happened to him? Maybe he's rested, maybe he's cooling off, and then eventually we got word that you were moving again. So
Slowly.
That was good.
I like what you said earlier, though. Because that I didn't want to interrupt you in your story about the 50K, but I think it was the 50K you're talking about. But you said you were training well, but you weren't running well or racing well. And man, that applies to most people. Like and I was glad to hear you say that, because like a lot of people do train good, but their races don't always go the way they want them to. And that really gets people down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had a year like that this year. I've been training good, but I just haven't had a lot of good races. Something seems to happen. So, I think it's good for people to hear that even, Ethan, 3-time marathon winner and, 50K national title, there's just times where everything feels really good, but nothing goes right in the race, or one thing doesn't go right in the race. And, that shouldn't ever like get you down to the point that you don't want to do it. Look, look at what you did. Like, you were training well, but you weren't racing well, but you corrected that.
Yeah.
It just takes years. I mean, you come back and win the marathon, 2 more years later, or, 2 years again, making you the first person to win 3 Knoxville marathons.
Yep.
That may not have been back to back like I thought I had read, but that's still pretty good.
You won 2 of them back to back though, right?
Yeah, I won 2021 and 2022.
Man, that's so awesome.
Yeah,
so awesome. Did it give you like a key to the city or anything for that?
Not. Oh, I'm still waiting.
Still waiting.
We'll definitely advocate for that. See what we can do.
And when you were talking about Badwater, man, I automatically went back to Vol State.
Yeah.
Because I wished I would have done the same thing that you planned. I wish that I would have walked a lot during the day and ran at night. And I was just like failing in that race every day, because I was trying to battle the heat, trying to run. You're past the dead possums and you don't know if you're going to have water. And you're just running in 100-degree heat. And I can only imagine how hot Badwater was compared to this. But like by day 2.5, I was just coming unglued. Day 3, it all fell apart, and I was just failing and failing and failing. And finally, I was like, something's got to change. We started changing everything we were doing then, but I wished I would have had your strategy going into Ball State and went, walked some mostly during the day and ran at night, and it would have been a totally different race.
You could have just done my strategy, just walk the whole time because you couldn't run. So walk day, walk night, that'd be all right.
Yeah, Ethan. So there was times in that race where I'm running, running in the middle of the day, and I hear a Snapchat go off on my phone, and I open it up, and it's Matt. Matt's just sending everybody Snapchats,
having a great time,
having the best time back there.
Hey, it's hot. I'm not running in this. It was, man, I'm drenched. Like I'm just, the whole thing is just drenched. I can't run in that. I mean, I'm already overheating by just walking. Running they have. So yeah, Snapchat, send everybody updates. Good time.
There you go. If I had service in Death Valley, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So did your crew run any with you, or did they just strictly crew you?
Oh yeah, no, they were there from mile 42 to mile 134, because I for the last mile, I wanted them to get up to the finish line so they could cross the finish line with me.
How many was in your crew?
3. Yeah, and they were there the whole time.
One of the guys that crewed you, did he ran it before, right? Or did he run it again this year?
No. So my crew was all first timers out there.
Okay, the guy that you went and crewed with last year, did he run it again?
Oh yeah, so he's actually done it 6 years in a row.
Okay.
Delk. He's actually the reason I was able to run. I was able to get into Badwater in the first place, because I had given up that dream. But that's I'll tell that story in a second if you want to hear it. But
obviously we do.
Yeah, so he is a Knoxville local. Grew up in Jamestown, Tennessee, and he's a radiologist, and he has done the Badwater Ultra Cup, which is the Badwater Cape Fear, which is 51 miles on the coast of North Carolina, Badwater Salton Sea, which is 81 miles out in the desert outside of San Diego, and then the Badwater 135, in Death Valley. He's done all 3 of those every year for like the last 6 years, and he has the record for the most Ultra Cup finishes. And his goal is
Wow.
to actually break the record of most Badwater 135 finishes, which is like 20 or something.
Oh,
So,
wow.
um, but yeah, so I had done back in 2021, 2020, all the races, everything got canceled because of COVID.
Mhm.
And the race director of Badwater, Chris Kostman, set up a virtual race. It was called the uh, I forget what it was called, but it was basically 260. So if you add up the 135, the 51 for Cape Fear, and the 81 for Salton Sea, you get 267. And so the goal was to run 267 miles, and you had 16 days to do it. So basically 2 weeks and 2 days. So you had 2 weeks and a weekend on either end. But it was an actual race because you had to be on Strava. You had to be um, in the Strava group for this race, and each run elapsed time counted. So if you stopped for the bathroom or whatever, that counted against you. Now the spirit of the race was that if you started a run, you would keep your watch running or you would go until you were done with that run. The rules were a little not quite that clear. So some people were like just starting a new run. You start a run, go to go to the bathroom, but you stop your run and you start a new run. Um,
Mhm.
I knew the spirit of the race, and so I was running twice in the morning or in the evening. So basically, it's 267 miles in 16 days is like 17 miles a day. Back to back 118-mile weeks with a weekend, and I averaged 607, 608, something like that. Um, and that actually got Chris's attention, the race director. And so he knew who I was, which helped, I think, my application.
Yeah.
So I did the Badwater Salton Sea with Kevin, um, the local guy, a couple times.
Mhm.
And I think if you or any of your listeners are looking to get into Badwater, the good ways to do it are to do the other Badwater races, the Cape Fear and the Salton Sea, and to crew someone at Badwater. So I crewed Kevin the last 2 years, and they really really like people to do that because you understand what the race is about and how to succeed. And so I think between having one virtual race and then crewing Kevin twice and then doing the Salton Sea 81 miler twice, that was why I got in because my ultra resume, like the long ultras, was pretty thin. Um, the No Business 100 was actually my first 100. Um, and actually still the only 100 I finished besides Badwater.
That's
So,
2 of them.
According to Ethan, that's one and done.
Which one? No Business?
Yeah, when we were doing our training run the other day, or we were doing the course preview for Barn Creek, I was hitting him up because he's officially done with ultra running. He has already retired. He's retired from running. Period. He is going to do short races.
I've heard him say he's retired, but then every time I get on Facebook or Strava, he's doing a race every weekend. He's like, I'm retired. I'm retired from road running. And then he's up there just blistering people.
I mean, are you going to put in for Western States?
yeah, I mean, you have
he's
to.
not retired. He ain't done. No.
So yeah, Western States, and if I get in, I'll do it. But and there's a chance in 2 years if I really really want that no buckle, I'll go back and try No Business again. But
well, I will be officially done with No Business at that point. So if you need someone to crew you or pace you, I'll be there.
Well, I may go back that year and finally run it. Maybe. After next year, I finally hopefully qualify for Boston. It'll be back to these mountain things.
Yeah, and so Matt's going on marathon training.
Yeah,
he's going to focus on trying to qualify.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, 11 minutes away. minutes really, because you got to get 5 minutes faster than the qualifying time. So
Right.
we'll work on it. We'll see what we can do.
Shave that beard off again. You're going to save a few seconds. Keep telling him that.
I braid it. I'm not shaving. I'm braiding.
So, Ethan, tell us about this very last one we want to talk about here, and then we'll move on. But there was Blue Ridge Relay that you just did.
Hood to coast.
Or
Oh,
was it
Hood to Coast.
Hood to Coast? Yes. Sorry,
I have done Blue Ridge a few times.
I'm getting
but
confused here. I've read too much stuff.
You read too much.
It's been a few years.
Yeah, Hood to Coast. That's the one I wanted to talk about. That's your most recent one, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had meant to retire after Badwater, and then I told everyone that I was on this Masters Knoxville Track Club team that was going out to Hood to Coast, and we had run out at Hood to Coast. It's a huge relay, 1,200 teams from the top of Mount Hood to Seaside, Oregon. It's incredible, and we had run out there a few times in the late 2000s when we were young and fast, and we beat the Nike team one year. We won, and we got second and third a couple times, but last year, a couple of guys who had been doing it in the past said, a bunch of us are 40 now. Let's see if we can get a Masters team together. And I was like, yeah, I'm turning 40 next year. I'll join. And then I forgot about it. I'm trying to recover from Badwater, and I realized that I've Hood to Coast in like 5 or 6 weeks, and I need to actually try to run fast. And so I went from walking as my training to trying to run some decent fast times again, and messed up my hamstring the week of the race, and I wasn't able to run up until the time I basically got the handoff from the runner before me. But we all ran really well, and we won the Masters division. Everyone ran better than they were expected to, and yeah, we crushed it. It was fun. We actually Hood to Coast has something called Sub Masters. So Masters is every runner has to be over 40. Super Masters is over 50, and Sub Masters is over 30, which is kind of weird. But we actually beat all the Sub Masters teams too.
Oh, wow.
So
that's impressive.
Very good.
Like, how many miles did you end up running? Did you track like how many miles you ran?
Yeah, it's split up. It's like a Ragnar. So it's split up in 36 legs. And there's 12 runners, so each person runs 3 times. And so I had one of the longer ones, but it was only like 17, 18 miles. But if you're only running 5-6 miles at a time, you're expected to run pretty hard, pretty fast.
Yeah, I was gonna say you were running probably a 5-something pace, weren't you?
I was trying.
With those Badwater legs.
Yeah. He's used to it. He's used to going doing something hard and running fast the next week.
Yeah, back when I was young and stupid.
What did did you, I guess after you've done both, I would imagine I know what the answer to this question is going to be, but I'm going to ask you, what did you like more? Did you like ultras, or did you like marathons, or even shorter than that? Like, what was your favorite?
My favorite, and it might be just because of the races I chose and the success I had, but I love the 50K. Even the Frosty 50K, the trail run, the real actual trail run, the Frosty Foot that I run earlier this year, getting ready for Black Canyon 100K. It's just a good distance. I like 50Ks. It's long enough where you kind of have to have a good amount of strength and endurance, but short enough where you're not out there all day and all night.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big 50K guy.
Well, and you did well at Black Canyon 100K too this year.
I finished. It was better. it was definitely better than I I was better than I was at No Business.
Yeah, well, I mean, you held a pretty solid pace for a long time. I remember following you through that race. You were running really well.
Well, Black Canyon's weird. It starts off with like a 15 or 20 mile downhill. And so and it's also cold. Like it started off it was like 35 degrees because it starts at elevation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you descend into the valley and then start climbing again. So it got hot in the middle of the day, like mid 70s, high low 80s, something like that, with full sun. So not Death Valley hot, but hot enough. But yeah, people at that race go out crazy fast. I was running, down the hill in the first 15 miles at 7 minute, 7:30 pace, and just people were just flying by me. It's like, this is 100K, guys, slow down.
Coming from the guy that runs fives.
Yeah.
No,
That'll work. I'll get there one day.
Yeah. If I ran 5-minute miles, I might be able to run a 5K. That's about it. I'd pass out after that. I couldn't imagine doing a marathon.
So does that mean you're coming back to the Covenant next year, or are you done marathon in general?
oh, you're looking for some sort of an announcement here, aren't you?
You said you're done, you're retired, and then you're not retired. I don't know.
I almost seen when you said Covenant, his mustache twitched.
I won't rule it out. No, I'll see. I'm gonna see how much. I mean, I'm retired in that I'm not signed up for anything right now, but I'm still trying to stay in shape. So if the winter goes well and I'm in good shape, I'll probably sign up for it. But
So you have nothing planned out for the rest of the year?
this is the first time since I started running seriously in freshman year of high school, 1997.
Wow.
I have no races I'm signed up for.
He's doing his volunteering duties though.
Yeah.
He's running an aid station at No Business. I'll see him there.
Well,
That's right.
So,
Taking care.
He's taking care of all the good runners, even all the way up to the DFL, which is usually the one that needs the most attention.
he gets to handle these people with their new course now, since they actually get to go through the river and come out to the other side instead of, I guess, the bridge is down or something.
Oh yeah, I heard you saying that earlier. Apparently, they sent out an email.
They did a video a while ago saying
Wait, which
that,
slight course change.
yeah, slot course change.
not the bridge over to Blue Heron.
That's what it sounded like.
I'm not sure.
It said they're going to have a rope, and you're going to go across it, and it's going to go up into the Blue Heron aid station. Do it
Wow.
counterclockwise, and then they're going to have another drop back after the river.
Wow, that'd be
It's gonna
fun.
be wet.
Yeah, I mean, just another layer. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're changing the course up. I feel like I'm running a new course now. Backwards,
Yeah,
and I get a
And
couple
you
new
get wet.
sections.
So Ethan, you're not originally from Knoxville, are you?
No, I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Northern Virginia. Okay. And where'd you go to college at?
Carnegie Mellon. It's a small school in Pittsburgh.
Okay. So I thought
And
you were up that way.
What's that?
I thought you were from up that way, but I wasn't sure where
Yeah,
from.
I was in the Navy in Charleston, South Carolina. After that, and then from there, I came to Knoxville. So I have now lived in Knoxville longer than anywhere else.
Okay. What year did you move here?
2009.
2009. Cool. And what about the long run? How did that come about?
It was interesting. So there's a lot of really nice running apparel out there. And running stores generally don't stock a lot of apparel. Which it makes sense. It's not a super high margin item, and it doesn't wear out like shoes do. But my girlfriend Julia and I found ourselves ordering a lot of clothing online because we couldn't find, the brands we were interested in. And
Mm-hmm.
when you buy something online, you never know how it's going to fit, and when it gets there, it doesn't fit right. What do? Do you send it back? Do you just throw it in your closet? And so we had an idea to kind of open that avenue and be mostly apparel, focused on running and athletic clothing, but then also we really wanted to be like a like a hub where people would come and start their runs there and hang out afterwards, and we could have group runs from there. So we found this location on Southern Avenue, which is perfect. It's right down from the Greenway. Um, it's really centralized, only a couple miles from UT, and that's how it started. We were like, let's get some accounts opened and bring in some clothes and see if people are interested.
Yeah, for everybody that's not listening, Ethan and Julia run, which you can see Ethan's shirt. He's sporting it there, but it's the Long Run Shop in Knoxville. Definitely go check him out. He's pretty awesome. We get a lot of our stuff from there, and actually, even the Long Run is a sponsor for East Coast Adventures. They make donations to us. They give away prizes, and even Julia and Ethan have both ran some of the East Coast Adventures races. They ran Port Frenzy and I believe Julia ran Gone Loco or was going to run Gone Loco. But yeah, definitely if y'all haven't checked it out, check out the Long Run in Knoxville. Cool place to hang out, and there are good beverages in the back. Ethan, so real quick, we've got some questions from listeners we'd like to ask you. But while Matt's pulling that up, because Matt seems to lose these questions, so we got to give him a few minutes to find them. But you recently, so you talk about all the running and the marathons, the ultra marathons. Now you're race directing, right?
Yeah, that was another one of Julia's ideas. Was she was really interested in doing a backyard ultra. It's a really cool idea, and so we kind of tried to scope out some locations, and she was talking to her brother who owns a motocross course back to Jamestown, Tennessee. And he said there's some really nice trails out there, and he could probably come up with a 4.1 mile loop and on his starting and ending on his property. And we went and checked it out, and it seemed like it was it worked. It's going to work out pretty well. So yeah, it's called the Barn Creek Backyard Ultra, and it's coming up in November. East Coast Adventures and the Long Run Joint Adventure. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, guys. So definitely, if you haven't signed up or checked out that race, check it out. It's Barn Creek Backyard Ultra, and it's in Allert, Tennessee. For anybody that doesn't know, that's kind of close to and towards Jamestown area. But if you haven't seen the award for the Last Man Standing, it's one of Ethan's ideas, but we're actually using the Pumpkin Tower. That's in Allard. That's going to be part of the actual Last Man Standing award. Obviously, the Long Run and East Coast Ventures are putting on the race together, so we're both throwing in some swag too. So obviously, Ethan and Scott shirts and hoodies that are on there, and then also we're doing coins for any of the finishers, and then anybody that gets 100 miles will get pretty awesome belt buckle that Julia and Ethan designed. So it's pretty cool.
It should be a pretty good course for doing 100 miles because it's. I mean, you ran with me last weekend, David. It's a pretty easy loop. I know you have to do it.
It's what do we end up with? 200 something feet elevation gain over 4.1 miles.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of trail, a little bit of gravel, a little bit of road. It's perfectly balanced, so there's not any alternating on the course. But for anybody that's listening, later this week, we're going to give away a free entry. Just follow our Instagram and Long Run and East Coast Adventures account, and we'll have a way for you to win a free entry on there later this week. So pay attention, guys. But now, hopefully, Matt has found the questions.
I got some. The first one, it's pretty simple, but why are you so fast?
I kind of take I'm really not that fast. I've been lucky in that I've been able to train at a pretty high level for a long time and make the most of my abilities. I think I've really just been lucky to have been able to take advantage of what gifts I do have. in terms of my training.
The next question is, what do you fuel with, or what is your favorite fuel, food or drink?
So I would say short races and hard efforts. I like Spring, the gels. That's my go-to for marathons, 50Ks. The Awesome Sauce is my favorite. For longer stuff, like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I I live for Mountain Dew, Snickers bars, oatmeal cream pies. Yeah, that would get me there.
That's definitely ultra running food right there. The next one is, how did you heat train for Badwater?
So it unfortunately didn't get super hot here. The race was July 4th, and it kind of didn't get that hot here until later in July.
Yep.
So I was going out in the afternoons and walk jogging as much as I could. But then 5 or 6 days a week, I would go to the sauna, and I would do a workout first. So I would like walk uphill on the treadmill or do a walk jog or or a little jog, and then I go sit in the sauna for up to 45 minutes. But I was trying to do it at least 5 times a week.
Okay. Another question. Do you keep a running log?
I do, yeah. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I've been working on since early 2000s. It's got a lot of features.
Ethan is an engineer,
Well,
so he's all about that.
You gotta have it out there. Okay, let's see here. We got a few more.
Oh wow, you've got so many questions. You got two.
Well, I think most of these have already been answered.
I'm really shocked Matt has kept up with both of these lists.
I got one more after this. When did you win your first marathon?
The first marathon I won, I think actually was the year I was training for the Double Boston. In January, I went down to Charleston back because that's where I was in the Navy and ran the Charleston Marathon as a training run and ran 2:32, 2:34 or something and won it as one of my training runs.
Okay. And then we have one from one of the Knoxville guys. It said, I guess Julia is running the race coming up.
Yeah.
100K?
Is this? Yeah. She's running the Javelina out outside of Phoenix.
Okay. How many beers are you going to drink while you're crewing her?
I'm supposed to pace her for the last lap, so I'm gonna try to stay under control so I can stay on my feet and help her out in the last.
I think that's all I've got from.
I got one more, and I won't tell you who this question's from, but can you tell us a little bit about your dog Trooper?
Oh, so Trooper, I inherited him from my parents when I moved to Knoxville because they didn't have a fenced-in yard. They had a invisible fence, and he kept running through it. And so I got an actual fenced yard, so I brought him down to my house here in Knoxville. And yeah, he was my running buddy. We actually built a bar in the basement, and he was afraid to go down the stairs to the basement, and so we called it Trooper's Bar because he wasn't. Everyone felt sorry because we were all hanging out down there, and he was just sitting up, staring down at us. And if you go to, if you look at our logo of the long run, there's a dog head in the logo, and that's Trooper.
That's cool. That's awesome. That's cool. Was there also a racing team named after Trooper?
There was. We had the Troopers Bar racing team, too. We got a lot of questions about where Troopers Bar was and how people. It's hard in my basement. Yeah.
Well, that's a really cool story, and I didn't know that that was your actual dog that was in the logo of the long run. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Did you all create that logo yourselves?
Actually, our friend Jose Salas, he's a graphic designer, and he has done a lot of the graphic design work for us for our store.
He did great. I
Yeah,
love
he
that
did
logo. It's awesome. But that's even cooler now. Now that I know that it has meaning, that's true. That's really awesome. Any other questions, Matt?
That's all the people gave me to ask. So,
All right, Ethan. Well, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any questions for us or anything we can do
Looking
better at? Other
looking
than,
forward.
other than making the camera work for the webcam. So I apologize for that.
yeah, for people that don't know, we spent 20 minutes trying to get this camera to work, and then it
Well,
just magically came on.
When we say we,
Yeah, him, because I can't do it. Computer stuff, not happening. I just sit here and like, yeah, man,
Matt was very
it's
supportive.
not on. Yeah, not on. But we got it. He got it.
Friday at Blue Heron.
Yes, sir. I will see you then. I'm going to go down tomorrow, actually.
Hey,
So.
if you see him walking, give him one of the speeches that he gives me. Yell at him, cuss at him, tell him it's gonna hurt no matter what, walking or running, and tell him to go. Nobody cares. Run faster. That's what. Just constantly just yell at him.
Ethan,
Sounds
I don't know what he's talking about because I give really good motivational
Yeah.
speeches.
Every bit what I just said is exactly what he tells me. Yelling at me as I'm throwing up. He's yelling at me, and it may work. So try it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, don't hold back, Ethan. Just let
and
it out.
if he's throwing
Just let
up,
it out.
give him the old Matt Williams and slap him right in the face, and it'll quit.
Well, Ethan, I will see you at No Business, and then we will see you again just a couple weeks at Barn Creek.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, take care, brother.
Thanks, Dave.
See you. All right, we're done recording. So.